So we've reached the end of the line with the Mission Impossible franchise, I think. And I do love this franchise. I know. You probably saw the title of this video and you're thinking, he's disappointed. I am. It's not that I'm mad that they brought it back for an 8th movie. I just kind of wish the mission they chose to accept was a little bit different. Actually, a lot bit different. I'll explain more. Let's get into it. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm giving you my spoiler-free thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Yes, this is the 8th and supposedly final movie in the Mission Impossible franchise. It stars Ethan Hunt trying to finally take down the AI superpower known to us in the film as the Entity, also while trying to take care of Gabriel, who is, well, being Gabriel, the villain from Dead Reckoning. Also, while trying to come to terms with the fact that maybe this man is just old, bro, and he just needs to give it up. Ethan Hunt, it's time to stop, you know? So there's a few different things going on in this movie, and it's supposed to all come down to this. So is it worth your time? Well, that's a loaded question. And I'm going to give you an answer. So again, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, and all the news in between. So if you do too, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, like this video, and get loud in the comments below. And let me know when you see The Final Reckoning, or hey, if you've already seen it, what's your complete Mission Impossible ranking? And does this movie feel like a satisfying ending for you? Because I also have an answer for that one too. Yeah, I got a lot of answers today. So let's get started with who's directing this movie, who it stars, and maybe a little bit more of what it's about. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who directed the last 3 Mission Impossible movies. And thankfully, he shot about 45 minutes, I believe, of this movie in the 1:9:1 ratio. It's the IMAX ratio. So thank you, Paramount Pictures, for giving me the chance to see this in theaters for review. And it was in an IMAX theater, so it was really fun to see that on a big screen. But the film stars an ensemble cast, of course, led by Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, Ving Rhames as Luther Stickell. We have Simon Pegg coming back as Benji, Hayley Atwell as Grace, Angela Bassett as President Erika Sloane, and Klementieff as Paris, one of my favorite additions to this franchise. And the plot summary, literally, it reads like this in all the promo materials, but it is: our lives are the sum of our choices. So if you didn't know, this basically all directions are pointing towards this being the end for Ethan Hunt and his story in the Mission Impossible franchise. So again, the film itself is 2 hours and 49 minutes. But is it 2 hours and 49 minutes of fun, or is it more of a mixed bag? Okay, I'm gonna lean towards the latter. So let's get started with the negatives, because that's kind of how the movie starts, on a negative note for me. The Final Reckoning has such a rough first hour, and in that first act, it just felt like the film was dragging along. Almost like they didn't have any idea of where to go next, how to write a scene, or how to direct the film properly. McQuarrie is a good director, I think, for all intents and purposes, right, you guys? So what happened in The Final Reckoning? It just felt like they couldn't get from scene to scene properly. There was really no flow. And within that first hour, it felt like an ode to the past Mission Impossible movies, and on paper that sounds good, but this was a very forced swan song. There are just too many overt callbacks and flashbacks to previous movies, and man, the movie even starts, literally the very first scene of this movie is the president sending a VHS tape to Ethan Hunt. And within that tape, we get him kind of like listening to it, but then he's thinking. So when he's thinking, it's like black and white montage sequence of past films and, you know, different stunts, and hey, remember Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7? And you're like, yes, we do remember those movies. Now, I get when a film is trying to catch its audience up. That happens. But you can write that cleverly. And here, this was just so taxing. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, like, yes, we know that happened in the last movie. So you're telling me 8 movies into a franchise, you just want to catch everyone up within the first hour? I mean, they got to do some homework, right? Audiences, just treat them like they're smart. Yes, we're caught up, y'all. And even for those who aren't caught up, you can do little things here and there, but to really kind of bring every single reminder back into play, like, okay, man, we get it. There's also not many interesting plot points that are developing in the first hour because, well, I'm going to be honest, you guys, nothing new really develops in this first act. So I'm starting to think, okay, this is a continuation, a very direct sequel, of course, to Dead Reckoning. Okay, new things need to start happening, and we get maybe a sprinkle of that, but nothing really starts happening until the underwater submarine sequence, which is one of two big action set pieces in this movie. And one thing that frustrated me was in the first act, there's a very emotional moment. And I almost wish the first act was great simply because this moment is overshadowed by the mess of this first hour. And even within that moment, it felt very expository. Like there's so many moments of exposition here, just like talk. I get it. I'm okay with a movie that has compelling dialogue, but the key word here is compelling. This film was just explaining to the audience, remember when you were on the train? Remember when you were in the air and on the ground? And it was so frustrating. It was very lazy. The script needed work. It needed to be tightened up, and it probably needed another draft, to be honest. And when it comes to the villains in this movie, well, listen, the Mission Impossible franchise has seen great villains like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3, but in Dead Reckoning, while I was on board with Esai Morales as Gabriel, here I was not. And it was a little bit of both of his acting, but also more so the writing for his character. They gave him incredibly bad lines, and he hammed it up big time. You know, there was a moment in my buddy Austin Putnam, who I watched the movie with, he said, and I agree with him, it was just overdone. And it is true. There was a line where he's like, catch me if you can. Come on. Catch me if you can. That is the line you give him? Oh, God. Please. And then when it comes to the entity, this AI superpower, you almost forget about it in a weird way. Like after the midpoint of the movie, it doesn't feel like it has as much weight. Like sure, there's like this cloud of possible nuclear war, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's so scary, the entity might have control. But they don't do much to really make the audience feel that. At least I didn't feel that. And when it comes to sticking the landing, I think I would have walked away loving this movie if it wasn't for the first hour of this film. So that is the keyword of the day, you guys. Hour number 1. It's just bad. And the movie just I cannot not think about that first hour. To me, it's something that you cannot avoid when you're talking about this film. So for better, and in my case, for worse, this movie, it just fails to be great because it spends 60 minutes on a ton of catch-up, callbacks to previous films, hoping that the audience, of course, would react well. And instead, it did the inverse for me, where it just felt like I was being told, you're a dumb audience member, let me catch you up on everything so you can fully lock into this plot, which is not as layered as I think they wanted it to be. But just like the final reckoning, once you get to the second act, at least things start to go up from there. So let's get started with my positives. And I do have positives. I know, you're probably thinking, man, this kid hates the film. No, I don't hate the movie. But there are some positives I do want to highlight. So, number 1 here, once the movie gets to that underwater submarine sequence, the submersible, I think that's the name of the submarine or something like that. Yo, it was fire, okay? That is where I feel like the movie starts to find its footing. And I wonder why it took so long to get there, though, because there was a lack of action up to that point. In both sequences, not just the submarine, but also the plane sequence pays off, especially in IMAX. So once the film locks in there, so do I, and I'm in it, right? And I'm glad that the movie starts gaining that momentum again. It's just a case of maybe a too little, too late type of deal, because even through all that, the movie, I start to see through some of the thinly, veiled attempts at making us, struggle with these characters, and there's really no emotional tie. There should have been, because there are some awesome actors in this movie that try to deliver the emotion that we so desperately need, but the script doesn't really call for that. But again, we're in the positives. So there's another thing I do want to talk about, and I know we said it was a huge negative, right? But I do think fans will appreciate some of the callbacks and inclusions of cameos in this movie. Honestly, one of the best things about Final Reckoning is the fact that it made Mission Impossible 3 even more important, even though I've always loved that film. And as someone who really liked the first movie too, which a lot of people did, of course, the consensus is it's great and it is a really good movie. They bring back a character, I believe, Dunlow, is that the name? It's so good. And that's not a spoiler because it's been in the marketing materials, but man, it was really nice that they bring him back and they do talk about the knock list. So it's cool. Even though I picked it up right away, turned to my buddy and I said, that's the dude from the first Mission Impossible. And then it took literally everybody 30 extra minutes to realize that's who it was. And you know, when they realized it, when the movie did another callback to the same exact Mission Impossible 1 scene from the beginning of the movie with Dunn. And I'm like, guys, they literally showed us that at the beginning of the film, and you're just putting the pieces together now. So we've got a couple awesome action set pieces, and of course I do like that one cameo, but none of this probably would have worked so well if it wasn't for the music. The score here is possibly the best score in this franchise since Michael Giacchino's Ghost Protocol score. Now, this franchise to me is not known for having awesome scores, but Michael Giacchino did elevate it for me. And the score here, I believe it's a duo, 2 composers who worked on this movie. It's so noticeable in the underwater scene. There's this droning sound coming from some of the instruments, and I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, I am so tense right now because the music is helping. And then when it comes to the sound design, that also aids scenes like that. So there are instances where the score really does elevate the scene, which is funny to say in a Mission Impossible movie because you would think the practical stunts would be exactly that, basically the thing to elevate the movie. But the score here was pretty darn good, and again, it's the most notable score since Ghost Protocol. And when it comes to our actors, I want to say there are some standouts, and we're going to begin with actress Hayley Atwell, who plays Grace. Grace is a character that Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt has some sort of affinity for. You know, he doesn't want to lose her, and I think it's more so he just doesn't want to lose members of his team ever again, but he does have an affection for her, and the same for her to him. But Hayley Atwell delivers, in my opinion, the most raw emotion in this movie, and it actually worked really well for me. I just kind of wish Grace was a bigger piece to this puzzle earlier in the franchise. In a weird way, maybe if they gave her a bigger role in Dead Reckoning, I think it would have been cool. And even in Final Reckoning, there are some instances where you just kind of forget, like, oh, there are other actors outside of Ethan Hunt here, or Tom Cruise, I should say. So Hayley Atwell does a pretty darn good job here, and I like Trammell Tillman. He's a supporting cast member. I mean, he's one of the only supporting cast members that I like in this movie, because the others unfortunately were throwaways, like Hannah Waddingham and Katie O'Brien. Not saying they're bad actors, it's just they were kind of thrown to the side and not given much material to work with. But Trammell Tillman plays a captain of one of the submarines, and I think it's the USS Ohio. Bro, he kills it, okay? Severance has elevated this man, and he deserves it because he's such a good actor, and he brought something to the table that I think this movie was desperately missing, which was charisma. And then there's Angela Bassett, who plays President Erika Sloane, and my goodness, does she really help deliver the drama in the moments where they're faced with nuclear warfare. I loved the way she was delivering her lines, the way she conversed with Ethan Hunt and her other colleagues. It just works so well for me. And then there's a scene at the end, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? That's beautiful. But it's because of the emotion that she brings. So Angela Bassett just does an awesome job here. She's a legend anyway, but I really loved her character in this film. And rounding us out here is Klementieff, who plays Paris, the assassin in the first Dead Reckoning. I should say the only Dead Reckoning. And then in Final Reckoning, she's back as a part of Ethan's team. But Klementieff just kicks so much butt. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if she did her own stunts, because she's just so cool on camera. She's one of my favorite additions to this franchise, and in a weird way, I wish I saw more of her and of Hayley Atwell in this movie, because they're really good, and they're really good on screen together. So I love what they've done with these characters. So you're probably wondering, well, where is Tom Cruise and where is Simon Pegg, who plays Benji? It's not that they are not good in this film, it's just that they're not really standouts. To me, at least, they could have brought a bit more charisma to their roles, and they didn't, and they were really somber for the most part. That's okay in some instances, but you know, Tom Cruise in the very first 10 or 15 minutes, he has funny moments before the title cards drop, and I was thinking, okay, we're gonna get more of this sort of Ethan Hunt, but we really don't. It can get tiresome after a little while. To me, it doesn't seem like it always fits the scene too well, but yeah, they're okay. It's just that they don't stand out in this movie to me. So overall, you guys, my final thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is, it's not a bad movie per se. I liked it from the second act onward, but I didn't love this movie, and I really wanted to. I think if this is the final Mission Impossible movie, which it totally feels like it is, this is a disappointing end to the franchise. I just can't honestly tell you that it's an awesome film, because it has awesome elements and 2 awesome set pieces, but it isn't an awesome movie. I think that first hour tanks the movie for the most part, and the only thing that brought it back was underwater, and that was literally the submarine sequence. So it's, to me, a movie that has cool pieces. It just never really comes together well enough for me to say that The Final Reckoning is among the best Mission Impossible films. I am not a fan of Mission Impossible 2 at all. I think it's one of the worst action movies I've seen, but in the scope of this franchise, this is the worst movie since Mission Impossible 2. So if you liked Dead Reckoning, in my opinion, I think you'll be disappointed by this follow-up. If you did not like Dead Reckoning at all, you're going to really not like The Final Reckoning. So that's where I'm at. I feel like there should have been a consistent through line. I like Dead Reckoning. I should have really liked The Final Reckoning, right? Only up from here. Instead, it sort of dipped, and this is, in my opinion, worse than Dead Reckoning, and that is a shame. I wanted more from this movie, but those are just my thoughts. I need to know what you guys think in the comments below, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, help us get to 30,000 subscribers, and for more reviews like this, stay tuned, because I'm doing a lot more ad-to-feeder reactions, and I kind of like doing them, and I see that you guys do like them too. So that's where I'm at. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning gets a 3.5 out of 5 submarines from me, because, again, just not loving it. Don't hate it. Just really wish it was better. So there you have it, you guys. Again, the movie comes out May 23rd, so let me know what you think of it when you see it. So glad I got to see this early, and I'm hoping that they actually don't make another Mission Impossible movie, because I do think this franchise ran out of gas. I say that as a Fast and Furious fan. I know. Alrighty, y'all. Well, again, thanks so much for watching. God bless you guys, and I'll catch you at the next screening. I know, Ethan Hunt's going to be mad at this review. He's going to come after me. I know.